Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Pittsburgh Sports Memories podcast. And on this podcast, we're going to talk about Pitt quarterbacks. No, we won't be covering all of them, so you don't have to hear the tales of Tino Sinceri or John Turman. We'll be just sticking to the ones that made it to the NFL. So come join us on our fun trip down memory lane here. All right, and as usual, I'm joined with my co-host Tim Hannon.
Hello.
And Tim, I'm just going to run through these chronologically. So I guess we'll start off with maybe some people we haven't heard from, and then we'll work our way into probably some people we have heard from. All right, so without further delay, we'll get into a gentleman I'm sure Tim remembers this guy. He was sitting definitely in Pitt Stadium watching him play. This was one Paul Rickards. I have no idea. Ricardo? I don't know. I can't pronounce. If I have offending the Rickards family, I apologize. But he played from, let me see. He played in the NFL for like 1 minute. He played at Pitt, though. He was very successful. He enrolled in 1944, but you see there was this like whole war thing going on. So he ended up getting drafted into the Army Air Corps, which was the Air Force back then. So he came back. He did hold up his end of the bargain after he survived the war and got discharged. He came back in 1946, and he announced that he would return to Pitt. So after 2 years away, he came, but he had some trouble adjusting the new coach. He did play a little bit in the single wing, but I guess not a lot. But I guess he made enough that he got actually tried out for the Cleveland Browns in 48, but Paul Brown didn't like him. So he ended up in the Los Angeles Rams. He was behind a guy named Bob Waterfield, who's a Hall of Famer. I never heard of for the Rams. I'm not familiar with that guy, but apparently he was really good back in the 1940s. So he only completed 2 passes. He didn't last very long in the NFL. He went to another league called, I don't know what, the American football. I guess it was the AFL, and he played for some team called the Richmond Rebels. Oh, no, that was the new American Football League, so maybe that wasn't the AFL. So in 49, yeah, I guess that would have probably predated the AFL that merged eventually. So, like I say, he played 2 seasons for them. 17 games. He actually compiled almost 2,000 passing yards and 28 touchdown passes. So, good for Paul Ricard. So, we go from 1948, and it's a little bit of a drought on Pitt quarterbacks playing in the NFL.
I just want to say that Richmond Rebels would definitely be way too politically incorrect of a team name for today. Could you imagine that?
Well, isn't Old Miss is still the Rebels technically, right? Or did they get rid of their little rebel guy? Or
A good point.
yeah, I know they got mad at them even back in like when Archie Manning was there, like when he was going for the Heisman, like they used to wave their little Confederate flags, and even back in like the 60s, that wasn't really cool. So go figure, people are offended by that.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
I don't know. It's all over states' rights, Tim. States' rights. Yeah. They're really passionate about their states' rights down there. I digress. So, a mere 30 years later, Pitt decided that it was time to put another quarterback in the NFL, and that would be one Matthew Cavanaugh. He played for the Patriots. He actually was a pick of the Patriots in 1978 after he graduated. But at Pitt, he was named MVP of the 1977 Gator Bowl, and he threw 4 touchdown passes in a 34-3 win over Clemson. See, having good games against Clemson, it's just what Pitt and Pitt quarterbacks do. There's going to be another quarterback on this list that has a really good day against Clemson. So he threw for a lot. He won a national championship at Pitt. And that was the first one since the 30s, so it was pretty good. And I think he was only in Pitt's history at that point, he only trailed Ken Lucas's yards for a single season or something. And so, but that was until some other guy came along and broke those records. We'll talk about him a little probably next. I remember him more. I mean, he was a backup, and I don't really remember him as a backup. He played a lot for San Francisco and the Eagles and the Giants. I remember him more as a coach than probably these guys. Like he was the backup to Joe Montana and Jeff Hostetler. He retired in 91, believe it or not. He lasted, 12, 13 years in the NFL. He did appear in 112 games. He had 4,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions, which isn't very good, a 71 passer rating. But his more is known. He's been everywhere as an offensive coach. He coached the offensive coordinator at Pitt. He's been with the Cardinals, 49ers. I think he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens? That's Super Bowl 35. So that was well, I don't know if that's a proud moment to be a coordinator of that offense. So, I mean, I guess if you're just going to tell people don't turn the ball over, I mean, I could have probably coached that offense. Anyway, he did come back to Pitt, and now he coached the Bears. I forgot about that. Like he was offensive coordinator, and he's back. He was with the Washington Guardians, whatever they are, more offensive names, I guess. And he was promoted after Sean McVay left to the Rams. So now he's the coordinator of he's a senior offensive assistant with the New York Jets, who they're actually having a pretty good season. So kudos to Matt Cavanaugh. I always liked the Matt Cavanaugh spite play. Do you remember that, Tim, at all? You remember that game against South Florida where that was the year the refs just decided they didn't like Pitt at all? So like they scored a touchdown on like a pass play, and they literally ran the same exact like jump ball pass play on the next one and scored another touchdown. Like they scored a touchdown, got a called back, and it was like, oh, I'm just going to run the same exact play, and they got another touchdown. It was like, Matt Cavanaugh just out there, run it again. Yeah. So that was kind of fun. He was the offensive coordinator for 13-9. Once again, probably not the greatest offensive performance in school history, but it's one of the best wins in school history, and he knew enough to give LaShawn McCoy the ball a lot. So, like I said, more known for a coach, wouldn't you say, Tim, than probably a player?
Yeah, I totally agree. That's really what I know him for. I vaguely remember him as a player, as a backup quarterback, and I think the only reason I remember him as a player is because I knew that he was the quarterback for Pitt's national championship team, which predated me a little bit. But if he hadn't played for Pitt, he would have been just like every other second and third string quarterback in the 80s, and you would have forgotten about him.
I don't know. I still remember Steve DeBerg.
He started though for a while. I mean, I don't like you said, Kavanaugh didn't. I mean, he appeared in a bunch of games, but he was largely a backup. I mean, but kudos to him. He lasted for, like you said, a long time in the league, and then certainly had a very long coaching career, albeit, mixed results, definitely coaching a lot of, I think he coached a lot of teams where it was, run game and defense first. And, but like you said, somebody has to develop those kinds of game plans, and he was successful in a few of those places.
Yeah, you can't argue with the results. And I was never crazy about Matt Cavanaugh. I like the guy who came after him, the other Signetti, not the Signetti that's here now. I guess who's there now? Frank? Now Kurt Signetti, I think, or I don't know. The other Signetti that came after him. Now there's another Signetti.
I thought it was the same guy.
No, they're brothers.
Okay.
And both their father actually, for fun facts, coached at West Virginia before Don Nehlen in the 70s. He coached Oliver Luck, believe it or not. So fun times. And he actually ended up going to IUP and was extremely successful head coach at IUP for like 20 or 30 years. He died just this year and was very successful. But I mean, we'll save that for our IUP football podcast. Great moments in IUP football history. So the next guy I think we've all heard of, one Dan Marino. He was a 27th pick in 1983 of the Miami Dolphins. So, all right, here we go. He's a 9-time Pro Bowl selection, a 6-time first or second team All-Pro. He's made the AFC 6 times. He's NFL Rookie of the Year in '84, NFL Most Valuable Player, and he had 48 touchdown passes in 9 300-yard passing games, 400 yards. 48 touchdown passes in a season, and what used to be really good. What's the record now? 55? Is it 55?
I believe it's 55, but I mean, that record stood for at least 20 years.
And then like Peyton Manning just barely beat it by like what, 1 or 2 the one year, and then Tom Brady got jealous and was like, "You better get me Randy Moss." Well, boo hoo hoo. I'm talking now. We'll save that for the Let's Make Fun of Tom Brady podcast, which is just I bet a lot of people would tune into that podcast. They're like, I'm giving out $1 million ideas here.
That's true, especially people in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, like let's make fun of Tom Brady. But I digress. Back to Dan Marino, who we like, and he held more than 40 single season and career passing records. Some have been surpassed, a lot haven't. He was the first NFL quarterback to reach 50 and 60,000 career passing yards. He also threw 400 career touchdown passes. He was the first to do that. He's, of course, a college football Hall of Famer and a pro football Hall of Famer. He's only one of 3 former Miami Dolphins to have his jersey retired, number retired. And Marino was named to the NFL 100 all-time team as one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. So, that was a lot of great stuff. So I would say, what hurt his draft stock? Like, this has always been the debate. Like, he went, you see how late he went. He had a bad game. That his senior year was not good. Like, if he would have come out today, he would have come out after his junior year, or maybe his sophomore year. But I definitely say his junior year, he would have come out and probably been a much higher pick in 82 instead of 83. So
was that after they changed coaches, Steve? Was that after
that's
Jackie
what
Sarah
happened.
left?
Yeah, well, his senior year, he had Foge, a nice guy, good defensive coordinator, but not the greatest of offensive coaches. And they ended up losing in the Cotton Bowl 7-3 to SMU and all their paid players, Eric Dickerson and Craig James, they were paying for that big sack of money. The coach for SMU would just put a big sack of money in the end zone. That makes you really motivated. So,
and Steve's not exaggerating that they actually did get caught and they were given the death penalty a couple of years later by the NCAA. So that was actually really happening. I'm not sure he put the sack of money actually physically in the end zone, but yes, SMU was literally paying their players.
Before it was illegal. Now it's legal.
Right. Now it's just a thing, right?
Yeah. But whatever. Good for Eric Dickerson and Craig James, I guess. So whatever happened to Craig James? He's not in broadcasting anymore, is he? He just kind of, I don't know, after he got mad with his kid and all that, huh? I don't know. Anyway, this the very stream of consciousness podcast session. We have
a lot of follow up episodes to do on IUP, Craig James,
the Tom Brady whiny.
Yeah, Tom Brady things we don't like. So got a lot of good ideas for future episodes, Steve.
Yeah.
Not sure any of it relates to Pittsburgh sports, but that's okay.
So poor Dan kind of got jobbed in that way, and the Steelers fell for it. So, and it hurt Chuck Noll. They really should have drafted him, but we've talked about that ad nauseum. So, I mean, I don't know. I still think Dan probably made Don Shula, kept him in the league way longer than he should have. And I wonder if Dan doesn't play for Joe Walsh or the guy out in San Francisco.
Walsh.
Yeah, or even Joe Gibbs in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I bet he wins at least one Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can't All I know is that the Dolphins never won the Super Bowl, and I don't know if I could pin it on why. But the fact that they only made it to one, it was Marino's second year, and the AFC it was really like the Broncos and Bills and Elway and Kim Kelly and those guys that were dominating the AFC all those years when Marino was in his prime. So why they could never cross that hurdle, I don't know that I have a good enough reason for that.
It's a very Ben-like thing. Like after that one Super Bowl against Aaron Rodgers, it's not like an Aaron Rodgers thing. It's like Aaron Rodgers almost you could say the same thing about. Like they've both been to one Super Bowl since those first two. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Ben doesn't hold up as much as the Aaron Rodgers. At least Aaron Rodgers won one, but
well, I mean Ben won too, but it's Rodgers. I mean Rodgers, I always felt doesn't play very well in those big games. Ben, and this is probably just me being totally a homer here. I mean, Ben had some bad luck in those playoff games with injuries, defense giving up 45 points against Blake Bortles, stuff like that. But maybe it's a combination of all those things for Marino. Maybe there were playoff games where his defense didn't hold up. Maybe there were games where he just wasn't as clutch as he needed to be. So
I would say the one where they gave up 67 points would be one where his defense didn't hold up.
Yeah, that was his last ever game.
Yeah.
So he played all the way until 99, and then Jacksonville beat them 67-3 or whatever the score was.
It was embarrassing. Yeah. Yeah, and that was Jimmy Johnson. That was a different coach too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it just never worked, and it's unfortunate for him. He, maybe the greatest quarterback ever to not win a championship. I think you could easily make that argument.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, I mean, one of my favorites, and then he had like kind of a sordid career there. Like, why did he get kicked off CBS? Wasn't there some like personal stuff going on or something weird like that? I don't know if it was like a Me Too thing or I don't know. He had like a secret girlfriend. I think he's still married, even though he had like a child with a girl or something. It's something weird like that. So I don't know. I don't know what happened to Dan. He seems like a nice guy. I mean, besides the whole cheating on his wife thing, I don't know. So whatever. Moving on to people that people. Well, you might know who this is. You'll probably know who this is. One, Alex Van Pelt. Now, I actually saw Alex Van Pelt play in college. I saw Dan Marino play in the pros, but I never saw Alex Van Pelt. Well, I saw Alex Van Pelt. I never saw Dan play in college. So that's what I was trying to say. There you go. Spit it out. So Alex Van Pelt attended the University of Pittsburgh, where he graduated, and he broke all the records by Dan Marino. And he actually wasn't he the top when he left. He was the top passing yards leader in NCAA history, if I do remember correctly, I think, right?
He was definitely the top passing leader at Pitt. I know that.
Yeah, and he had a single season mark, which actually he held for a while until it got broken by another guy on his list. His single season of 3,163 passing yards. It was broken by somebody else who's going to be on our list here shortly. And I bet people are going to think it's somebody else who it isn't. You're not going to guess who this is. So, he had a really good career at Pitt, and he was pretty good. And I guess they ran more of like a passing friendly offense too. Who was that? Was that Mike Godfrey? Yeah. So they kind of, and that was those years Pitt went like 6-6 every year, right? Yeah. I think there was one year maybe they had like four wins, but for the most part. So Alex Van Pelt, the Steelers for once before. No, we'll get into that later. But remember, they used to never draft Pitt players. Remember that? It'd be like, oh, no, we're not drafting anybody from right next door. Well, they didn't practice right next door at that point, but for some reason they never. I mean, granted, Pitt didn't really have that great of teams back in the 90s, but it never seemed like even when they did, they never drafted anybody. So the Steelers did. The 8th round draft pick. Do they even have 8 rounds of the draft still?
No.
Wow. So he would have been a free agent signing nowadays, but he got cut during training camp. I remember that. He didn't get much of a chance. What was that, 93? So they had other quarterbacks that were probably better. So
O'Donnell and Tom Zach and I
probably
don't
Brister maybe still. Was Brister?
possibly, yeah,
Yeah.
or like Rick Strom or somebody like that would have been in there.
Because I don't think they had Cordell. Cordell didn't come till like a year or two later.
Correct.
So anyway, he also went to Kansas City and I think he got some playing time because he was following an injury to Joe Montana. No, he just spent 3 games there. He did not get any playing time. He was re-signed by the Chiefs, but then they were cut, and then he went to Buffalo, and that's where he found a home. And he spent probably like he did. He spent the rest of his career as a backup in Buffalo. He actually, ironically enough, his first win as a starter was against Dan Marino. Hey, Pitt on Pitt crime there. If you were picking quarterbacks to win against each other, would you pick Van Pelt over Marino in the NFL?
No, definitely not.
He actually, he supplanted Rob Johnson, and then he demoted to backup when they brought in Drew Bledsoe in the 2000s. So he had an 11-year career. Van Pelt totaled 16 touchdowns and 24 interceptions. And he had 31 career appearances. So he kind of the same career path as what's his name? Matt Cavanaugh. So he was a radio announcer in Buffalo, but he's been coaching since 2005. And he's been all over the place. I'm not even going to name all the places in the NFL. But as of right now, currently, he is the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. And he was actually, I think, when remember Stefanski that year, the Steelers lost to the Browns? Like, remember Stefanski got like COVID or something and had to like stay in his basement. And like Van Pelt was actually, I think, the head coach that game.
Right.
So he's got that. I mean, I don't know. He seems like he's a pretty solid coach. He's kind of gone the Matt Cavanaugh route, maybe. I don't know. Any other memories of Alex Van Pelt there, Tim?
Definitely remember him being the de facto coach for Cleveland when they beat us in the playoffs. Also remember him playing against the Steelers in the playoffs back in 1995 in the divisional round because Jim Kelly got knocked out of that game. And Van Pelt came in and threw a touchdown pass and started leading them back. And then I think eventually Kelly did come back into the game after that.
I did not. Yeah, I don't remember. I remember like one time, like he gained a lot of weight, and like they're like, "Hey, you got to watch them quarterbacks. They turned into tackles." I think Jim Kelly said it too. So I don't know. Jim Kelly was his own kind of guy, but he really found a home in Buffalo, and I think he did coach in Buffalo for a little bit, maybe. So good for Alex Van Pelt, and He's probably going to be a head coach in the NFL, I would imagine, before soon, right?
Oh yeah, I think he'll get a shot at being a head coach at some point here.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to go college. He's probably going to be a pro coach. I can't see him. Why would you? I don't know. Well, that's enough about Alex Van Pelt. Moving on to the next guy on our list, it's one Pistol Pete Gonzalez, who was one of my favorite quarterbacks. I liked Alex Van Pelt was more of my childhood. I remember Pete Gonzalez. I remember him being hurt for a whole year. He didn't get to play. But when he did as a senior, he had a really heck of a year with Walt Harris. Him and Walt Harris had a great season his senior year. So that was 97. He led the Pitt from a come from behind victory over WVU in the backyard brawl, the old 4th and 17 was that Jay Cofert or Terry Murphy? One of them. I think
it was Terry Murphy, but don't quote me on that. I just remember Gonzalez throwing the pass.
Yeah. Yeah, 4th and 17. He's a legend at Pitt. He's another guy. He did sign with the Steelers as an undrafted free agent. And I remember him spending 2 years with them, and they have him throwing one pass to Hines Ward for 8 yards, and that was his whole NFL career. And then after 2 years, they chose not to re-sign him, and he was out. He was cut. He never really caught on with another team. He played. He went to the CFL, and he was a backup for a year or two, but he didn't really have much success in the CFL either. So I remember like everybody wanted to start him. There was one year like Cordell stunk, wasn't there? And everybody's like, "Why don't you put Pete Gonzalez in?" And then like there was a rumor that he threw 3 straight interceptions in practice or something. So
Yeah, it was the '99 season. The Steelers lost, I want to say, 8 games in a row that year, like heading into like December. So I mean, it was like the end of the season. They had like 4 wins. There was like 3 games left. Like I mean, it was over. And they had at that point they had yanked Cordell and they had Mike Tomczak starting, and Tomczak was literally like 2 games away from retiring, which he did. So it's like, why not just throw him in there just to see if you have something. But I guess to your point, we're not there for practices, and they just didn't think he was at all NFL ready. So
and no one else in the NFL thought so either. So
correct.
So I mean, and even the Canadian Football League, you didn't even have any success. So I mean, he was really that was the end for him. Fun fact: he was the last Pittsburgh quarterback to wear number 7 before some other guy. So,
yeah,
I guess he'll be the last guy besides Ben Roethlisberger to wear that number. I don't think they'll ever get it out again. I mean,
no, I don't either. And yeah, to your point, not a very good. Didn't do anything in the pros, but we'll always remember him for that '97 season and that WVU game.
Yeah, I remember reading about him in the media guide at Pitt like the one year, and I was like, why isn't this guy playing? And he was hurt, and he's from Miami, and I thought, and that was one of the few times they beat Miami at all, but they beat them here, and that would be the one, till I think the James Conner year, that was the last time they'd beat them at all. So, and then that was only the second time they beat them before the Kenny Pickett year. So, go figure. He had his moment in college. So, I think he still lives in Pittsburgh, I think. So, he's out of football completely. He just, I don't know. I saw his LinkedIn, but I didn't go on it. I wasn't like going to try and hire Pete Gonzalez for whatever he's doing, or, consulting or something. Do you need some consulting from Pete Gonzalez, Tim?
I would hire Pete Gonzalez to do something.
I would hire him if I had like a really long shot situation and I needed somebody to handle it. I would. I think he could handle the pressure.
Nice.
Well, Pete Gonzalez, if you're listening, we loved you. We loved you at Pitt. Wish it would have worked out for you better in the NFL. Moving on to a guy who I cannot believe played in the NFL. I cannot believe he was there and lasted as long as he did. Matt Lytle. He lasted 2 seasons. I swear he lasted 4, but I guess he only lasted 2. I thought he lasted 4, but anyway, Matt Lytle should have lasted 0, but sorry, Matt. You were not even that great of a college quarterback. Now, to his defense, he played on some horrendously bad Pitt teams. Like the teams he played on were just not very good. And I guess he was the quarterback after Pete Gonzalez, right?
He was the quarterback. I thought he was a quarterback before and after. So
yeah, I think you're right. Yes.
I think he was the quarterback in '96, and then Gonzalez supplanted him in '97. And then Gonzalez graduated, so Lytle was back as the starter again in '98.
Yeah.
And so he kind of bookended Gonzalez, and Pitt did nothing either of those seasons. I'm with you. I never could believe at the time he was an NFL quarterback, and that he had much more success than Gonzalez did in the NFL.
Yeah, no, he was claimed by he played for the Rhine Fire, and he won a World Bowl with them. So maybe that's what happened. He was claimed off waivers by Seattle, and he actually played against the Raiders in a 21-3 loss. He paired again another game against the Chargers. But then I remember he went to Carolina, and they really liked him in Carolina. Who was it was the old coach of the 49ers who ended up
George Seifert.
Yeah, and he really liked Matt Lytle for some reason. Maybe that's why George Seifert doesn't have a job anymore. I don't know. I didn't think George Seifert was that bad. I mean, I thought he was another guy that kind of got a bad rap. Who's the guy who they still – did they put Tom Flores in the Hall of Fame yet? I know there was a push
did.
for it.
Yeah.
They did. Because I always thought that was another guy like a George Seifert that like nobody gave any credit to.
Right.
But at least Ford is definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. George Seifert, you could probably is more on the fence, probably more towards not. But I still think he was a good coach. I mean, you don't win a Super Bowl if you're a complete. Well, I guess Barry Switzer won a Super Bowl, so maybe no. I don't know.
He won 2 of them though. I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, the knock on him was you inherited the 49ers dynasty and you didn't do as much with it as you could have. They lost that championship game to the Giants, all that stuff. So that was kind of the knock on him. And then when he went and coached somewhere else in Carolina, that probably hurt his legacy because it's like, oh yeah, you don't have one of the greatest teams of all time. And look, you're not very good. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's the narrative.
Well, I mean, why don't people say that about Mike Tomlin then? Well, I guess people do. I mean, they say it about, he won with Bill Cowher's players, but.
Yeah, but Tomlin wasn't inheriting a team that, like, literally the 49ers were one of the greatest teams of all time, Like, that would be like if Belichick would have retired in,
Josh McDaniel took over or something. Yeah,
right. If Belichick would have retired right after, like when Brady was still in his prime and they just won their 3rd Super Bowl, right? That was the equivalent of when Bill Walsh retired. So that was the knock on Seifert. But like you said, starting Matt Lytle as your quarterback probably also did not help his legacy.
He had Chris Winkie too, didn't he? At some point, yeah. And Damian Craig. Ugh. That's some bad front office work there. I remember they had this white wide receiver. I can't remember his name for the life of me. And they had Fred Lane, the late Fred Lane, too. I don't know why I remember that Carolina team so well, but I remember them. They weren't that good. Lionel's final appearance, he came as the 27-23 loss to the Saints. He threw one pass after Winkie got a concussion. I don't know. He was tendered a contract offer, but they rescinded it. And he went into the CFL, and he was a backup for a while, I guess, to Anthony Calavillo with Montreal. I've heard of that guy. So he's like a CFL, and he played some in the AFL. And I think this is another guy like who just, I think he's on LinkedIn. He's totally out of football now. He's another guy on LinkedIn. I saw he had a LinkedIn. Is like LinkedIn like the new Facebook or something, Tim? I don't know.
It's like the professional social media. So
how long before that becomes a dating site?
Hopefully not.
I'm a 42-year-old professional with a chemical company and looking for a There you go. Anyway, I got jokes. Matt Lytle, I mean, he had a heck of I think Pete Gonzalez would have taken that career in the NFL, and he almost had about this. I mean, I think Alex Van Pelt had a little longer, a little better career than him, but it's almost, equivalent to Alex Van Pelt. So not quite Matt Cavanaugh, but hey, we all can't be him. Now here's one that people will probably argue with. We'll list this guy under, we had our Hall of Famers, we had our people we can't believe. I can't believe he's in the NFL, people. And this is probably people that had a cup of coffee in Pittsburgh. We're here for literally 5 minutes. So, and that would be one Joe Flacco, my favorite New Jerseyan. Although maybe my second favorite, because Kenny Pickett's probably my favorite. So there you go. I don't know. Who else would be who's your favorite person from New Jersey? Frank Sinatra, Tim? I don't know. Chris Christie?
I would need to see a list of New Jersey natives.
New Jersey. I don't know who else is from New Jersey. Tony Soprano? Tony Soprano? I don't know.
Bruce Springsteen, is he from New Jersey?
I can't think of, I think he Bon Jovi. Isn't Bon Jovi? There you go. Slim pickings there, I guess. The Jersey Shore is nice, though. Wildwood's nice if you like the Jersey Shore. Very stream of consciousness today, Tim. Very, But like I said, Joe Flacco, my second favorite person from New Jersey. So what happened was Joe played. Unfortunately, he played for Walt Harris, and unfortunately, Walt Harris had to start Tyler Palco, who ended up being a good quarterback. But it was more about keeping, his dad Bob Palco in the recruiting line open at local high schools than it was starting the better quarterback. And Flacco, I remember Flacco playing in a spring game and thinking, he weighed about 160 pounds, but he could throw the ball through a wall. I mean, the kid had an arm, and he just, he played that one year, and then he played another year with 2004. And then when Wannstedt came, he was going to still be on the bench, and he decided he didn't want to just sit the bench and only like Wannstedt said, if you stay here, you'll still have 1 year of eligibility, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to go, take advantage of his playing time elsewhere. So he went to Delaware, actually. Actually, for Pitt, what he had, like I thought I had his stats, like he had like one pass for like 4 yards.
It was that Nebraska game that you and I were there for. The game where there was the flood.
Four passes.
The day before. Yeah,
that's it. He had 4 passes and 1 completion for 11 yards and a 25-yard punt. So maybe he didn't like punting. Maybe that was so he went to Delaware and didn't win a championship game, but he went to it twice. Unfortunately, he had to play Appalachian State in one of those. I think one of those championship games he had to play Appalachian State. And unfortunately for him, Appalachian State had beaten like second or ranked Michigan that year. So they were pretty good, Tim. So, but on to Joe. Joe, he ended up with Baltimore, and he played well. He was there for years, and he won a Super Bowl with them, and he was the Super Bowl MVP, right? Yes, he was Super Bowl MVP of, what is that, XLVII. So was that 57, 47? Yeah, 47, yes. See, aren't you glad we learned those Roman numerals growing up?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what Super Bowl it is, so... I'd like to shake the hand of the Roman emperor that came up with that numbering system.
Yeah, it was a little easier when it was like X and like XII. I could get those a lot easier. Now you really have to think about them.
You're like when they get into like the C's and the D. What's isn't C 100 or
Super Bowl 100 would be Super Bowl C. So. But remember, Super Bowl 50, they didn't do Super Bowl L. They actually did the number 50 for that one.
Because
then they went back to L's
large.
after that.
They didn't want to be large. I like that.
I guess
Super Bowl 40 was awesome. That was Super Bowl extra large.
XL, yeah, I remember that. Yep.
It was an extra large Super Bowl.
But to your point about Flacco, I mean, he made the right choice for sure, leaving Pitt. That was the right choice for him in his career. And I think we got all those great years of Steeler-Ravens rivalries from him making that decision. So I don't know. Good on him. And I was, as much as the Ravens are our biggest rivals, I was a little bit happy for him winning that Super Bowl because, they had a good team for years. And that was that one year they finally put it all together and they deserved it.
Yeah, and he did his single postseason record. He tied Joe Montana's 11 touchdown passes without an interception in that one season. So, was that the year? They went to the Super Bowl? He threw that Hail Mary at the end of the game against Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, why do you let that? I don't know how Denver let that happen. It's like just literally keep everybody back.
Yeah, it wasn't quite a Hail Mary because there was like, I don't know, a minute left, but it was like 3rd and long or something. And all you had to do was you could have given them 10 yards or 20 yards even.
Yeah.
But for some reason they let, I think it was Jacoby Jones get behind their defense. And
Flacco could throw. That's the one, like, it wasn't like, oh, Flacco can't throw it that far. It's like, dude has an arm, man. It's been accuracy with him and he's like a statue. He can't move around. So, and he did throw.
And he's still playing.
Yeah, he won a couple games for the Jets this year.
Yep.
He did throw that awesome interception to Troy Polamalu, which we're all forever grateful for.
Yes.
So, oh well. Joe Flacco, cup of coffee here, but had a great NFL career. Good for him. And like you said, it was definitely the right move for him. So we're going to jump back. This is kind of before Joe Flacco and even another guy that's on our list. This guy is Rod Rutherford, and he was undrafted, but he was signed by Carolina as an unrestricted free agent. Pitt, now, you would not guess that he was the one who broke Alex Van Pelt's single-season passing record. Would you have guessed that, Tim, out of all the Pitt quarterbacks?
I would not have guessed it, but I'm pretty sure I know the reason why. It might have had to do with the guy he was throwing to.
That would have been R.J. English, yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure that was it.
So you're saying it might have not been him. It might have been Larry Fitzgerald, huh? Okay.
I mean, he had a great year that year, and he's the one that got the ball to Fitzgerald. So it's not like you can take that away from him. But he did have the greatest receiver in the history of the program, one of the greatest receivers in the history of college and pro football. So that helped, is all I'm saying.
Probably, yes. So, and funny enough, he won a Super Bowl ring. Can you believe it? And
with the Steelers?
Yes, he was on the practice squad. I remember that because, like, you remember, like, in Super Bowl media day, they have like all those jokey reporters. Like, they have the girl that's like not wearing any clothes hardly, and like somebody dressed like with Troy's hair. Like, they have like the guys like Rod would sit in the stands because nobody wants to talk to them. So I guess one of those reporters got bored and like started interviewing him, like asking him stupid questions. So. I think it was like a foreign reporter. So
nice. Well, good for him. I'm glad he won a Super Bowl. Did he ever play it down in the NFL?
I do not think so.
Okay, but he got did he get a ring for being on the practice squad?
Oh,
that's good. That's good. That's something he can tell his grandkids someday that he has a Super Bowl ring. And then when they say, "Can you show us footage from that year?" he can say, "I don't think they have any footage in 2005."
I was at practice every day, so. Okay, so going on to another guy that I don't know. I don't know. I didn't think he'd have that much success in the pros, but he was good in college. Tyler Palko, and he spent 2 seasons in the NFL, and he was really good at Pitt, and he really liked effing being at Pitt. He really liked it.
He was proud of his guys, that's for sure.
Yes, he was very proud of being a Pitt Panther, which is odd. He also has a LinkedIn page. Like, I found everybody's LinkedIn page on this. He does. I think he does some sort of like corporate stuff. I don't know, something with sports, like sports corporate crap. I don't know. Whatever. Good for him. So he played for the Chefs. Well, I call them the Chefs when they're bad, but there was the Chiefs in 2011, and he was not all that great with the Chiefs. He actually played in the game against the Steelers, and I think he had 3 interceptions. That kind of ended, like, at the end, he ended his career. Like, he threw a lot of interceptions and stuff. And I remember, like, the Kansas City media not really liking him very much. So, I mean, was it a mistake that once that kept him instead of Joe Flacco? I don't know. You could debate that till the end of time. He was under Todd Haley with the Chiefs. So, I mean, eventually, when Todd Haley got fired, Romeo Crennel benched Palco and started Kyle Orton. So, there you go. It wasn't a very long career for him, 2 seasons, but he played a fair amount compared to, Rod Rutherford.
Yeah, I mean, he was also on the Steelers practice squad at one point, Palco. But there's no way that the kind of the joke you were making about him being bleeping proud of his team, that was in reference to him swearing on the NBC broadcast after he had thrown 5 touchdown passes in South Bend to beat Notre Dame in 2004 and carrying Pitt to the Fiesta Bowl that year. So that would have been the year that Wanstead would have had to, because Wanstead was then hired after the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, he would have had to done a very unpopular thing.
Right. Benched the quarterback that threw 5 touchdown passes at Notre Dame, led Pitt to the Fiesta Bowl because he thought Joe Flacco was better. I mean, no one would have supported that. So, like you said, you can debate that to the end of time, but there was no way that he would have been able to do that.
That's why Wannstedt tried the other way and tried to sell him on like how Matt Castle at USC had 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to, and I'm sure Matt Castle didn't receive any money to stay, because who would do that? So I'm sure Matt Castle got paid to stay those 2 years, because there was a bunch of guys that did that in the SEC too. So I don't know. Anyway, who's next on our list? Tom Savage. Do you remember Tom Savage, Tim? He was another guy. He had more than a cup of coffee at Pitt. I guess he had a.
He had that one season, but it was a pretty good season. And the thing I remember about him was, didn't he play for like 18 teams before he came to Pitt?
Yes. What happened was he played for Rutgers mostly. He was another, I don't know if he's from somewhere I think he's from Springdale, PA or something. He's from Pennsylvania, but he went to Rutgers because he liked Schiano. And he played really well on a bad team. But his problem, he's like kind of like Flacco. He can't move around a lot. So he started getting concussions. And that was he had a couple at Rutgers, and they went to Arizona for a year, and then they fired the coach at Arizona and brought in Rich Rodriguez. And obviously Tom Savage is going to fit in with Rich Rodriguez's system. So he came back to Pitt with Paul Christ, because he wanted to go to Rutgers, but for some reason it didn't work out again. So he actually had a really good year at Pitt, like you said. And he ended up going to Houston, and he played pretty well at Houston for a while. I don't know if they made did they make any playoffs with him at Houston? I'm not sure. Houston was kind of mediocre then, but he did have he 3 or 4 years with Houston. He spent a year, or he was bounced around with the Saints, 49ers, and Bengals after that. He threw, what he threw? He threw like 2,000 yards, I think, that season at Pitt, and 21 touchdowns. So he was really good with Pitt, but he's another guy. He had Tyler Boyd, and he had James Conner, and they had Aaron Donald. And once again, remember when they went in the Pizza Bowl that year? He got another concussion in the Pizza Bowl too, and they had to play Wojtek. So, and can you believe, with Aaron Donald, James Conner, and Tyler Boyd and Tom Savage, the best Pitt could manage was a 7-6 record and a barely win over Bowling Green in a last minute. So, go figure. That's our Pitt Panthers, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds about right. What I remember about Savage was there was one point during the draft season where some people were projecting him as a first-round pick, which I could not believe. But he eventually did slide in as a fourth-round pick for the Texans, and like you said, played a few years there and didn't do much. But he was a decent quarterback for Pitt. But man, when people were talking about him as a first-round pick, I thought that was insanity.
He wasn't bad. He was good.
But a first-round pick?
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. So, the next guy on our list, another guy kind of like Savage, a transfer, Nathan Peterman. People really didn't like him in Tennessee. He spent 2 years there. I think they had a coaching change, so he transferred, and he spent 2 years at Pitt. And he had a career day against the national championship Clemson. I don't know what it is with Clemson and Pitt quarterbacks, but it seems to bring out the best in them. Except for Kenny Pickett. Not so well. Even Kenny had a good one that other time. So he threw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns in Pitt's victory. That was Clemson's only loss. Buffalo selected Peterman in the 5th round, so he's actually a for real draft pick. But he was a backup. But then he had he's the one that threw 5 interceptions. I think I have that. Yeah.
In the first half.
Yeah. He threw 5 interceptions in his first career start, and that kind of doomed him in Buffalo. And they had Tyrod Taylor, but he kept getting hurt or wasn't very good. So, and he won a game remember that snow game in Buffalo where like the snow is like a foot deep and nobody could do it? That was Peterman played in that game.
Hmm.
I think they had LaShawn McCoy, another Pitt player. So that was pretty crazy. The Bills won in overtime, 13-7. You couldn't kick a field goal. It was horrible. He actually entered a playoff game, unlike some of the other, but he didn't do well. He ended up throwing an interception. Then they finally replaced him with some guy named Josh Allen. I don't know what. Did that guy ever do anything for Buffalo?
Oh, big mistake there, Buffalo.
Yeah, really. He finished his Buffalo career with 4 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Yummy. Gruden really liked him when he was with the Raiders, and I think he's with the Bears practice squad currently.
Yeah, I remember that John Gruden was like a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
And then when he was out there as a free agent, I did wonder if when the Steelers made Matt Canada their offensive coordinator, I did wonder if they would go after Peterman. This is like before they had signed, all the guys that they had, like the Dwayne Haskins and those Mitch Trubisky's and all those guys, because he and Canada had a lot of success together, and neither of them have had really good success apart from each other. Not that they probably would have had success here with the Steelers as well, but I just wondered if they would have tried to reunite those two.
No, they didn't. Apparently, though, Canada did try to draft or recruit another person in college that is on our list here. Not to give away, but hey, and another person, I can't believe they were in the NFL. I mean, it's like I can't believe it's not butter. Only I can't believe they were in the NFL moment. That would be one Ben DiNucci. He not only was he in the NFL, Tim, he was a draft pick. What in the heck? Mike McCarthy lost his darn mind and drafted Ben DiNucci in the 7th round. Why? I don't know. Like, you couldn't have signed him off the street. So, whatever. He was a backup behind Peterman, and then he actually ended up playing that season. He played in the Pinstripe Bowl, and then the next year he played some because they signed. Pitt liked DiNucci so much they signed a transfer from USC named Max Brown, and Max Brown wasn't bad. I remember this season. That's at 2018. We got to do a podcast on a 2018 Pitt football. I really like that team, but Max Brown got hurt, and maybe this is 2017 actually, and Max Brown got hurt at Syracuse, and he separated his shoulder, wasn't going to be able to play. So it came down to Ben DiNucci and Kenny Pickett, who was just a freshman, like not redshirt freshman, like freshman. And so they tried to start DiNucci, and you could just tell DiNucci didn't have it at that level. So it's just, for whatever reason, they kept playing him until finally they Pat Narduzzi like wised up and started Kenny Pickett the rest of the season. So smartly, DiNucci transferred to James Madison and had a great career at James Madison, because I thought from seeing him play, I really thought that's what his talent level was that FCS or whatever, the lower division. And to his credit, he had so much so that he caught the eye of Mike McCarthy, and he went to the Cowboys, and he ended up playing. He played against a couple teams. I don't think he played against the Steelers. They had Cooper Rush by then, but I mean, it was just crazy. I couldn't believe Ben DiNucci was playing NFL football and actually played games and years. And finally, just this year, 2022, they finally waived him. So, like I said, Pitt had a much better backup quarterback than him, and I don't know why Mike McCarthy just liked him. I think he knew him growing up. Maybe it's just one of those things. I don't know, Tim. Can you find any logic on why some guys manage to stay in the pros and some guys don't?
Yeah, Ben DiNucci's much like Matt Lytle, where he lost his starting job at Pitt and then somehow made it to the NFL. So I never understood that, but kudos to him. I'm glad he had the opportunity, and but I was as shocked as anybody.
So, last but not least, since we're going chronological, some guy named Kenny Pickett. Ever heard of him?
I have heard of him.
Ah, okay. Oh, good. Because he was the other guy that was behind Ben DiNucci and Max Brown, and he was just a freshman. And I remember when he came in and he threw the ball, he actually threw. I thought his arm was better. I still do, was better than Max Brown, who was this, like when Max Brown came out of high school, was like this big recruit and went to USC. And I didn't think Max Brown was bad, but I thought Kenny Pickett, even as a freshman, had a better arm. And I thought he was really good at Pitt. And even before that last year, was that a fifth year or a sixth year? I think it was a fifth year, right?
They let him, because of the COVID
season.
They let him play a fifth year.
Yeah, because he had to start as a freshman because Brown got hurt, or he would have redshirted. And he was just he's a gutsy player. And he had that 2018, once again, he did not have the greatest season passing. And then 2019 and 2020, I don't know. He did not have a great seasons, and then in 2021 it all came together for him, and he really, really played well. And he had 4,319 yards, 42 touchdowns, and he set school records for senior yards and touchdowns. So he broke Rod Rutherford's single season record and the touchdown records. So he's a first-team All-American, third place in the Heisman Trophy. Pitt won the ACC championship. So, it's just great. It was just a really great performance by him. And he's actually right now, as of this podcast, he's still starting for the Steelers, as long as injuries permit, So we'll see what happens with Kenny Pickett, but I thought he was an NFL prospect way back his freshman year, all those games against Miami and stuff. There were people who disagreed with me. My dad mainly never thought Kenny was that good, but I did, even back then. So, and people always said, "Oh, his arm's not that good," and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I've seen guys play in the NFL with not half the arm that he has, and I don't know.
Yeah, I love Kenny. Was super thrilled that the Steelers drafted him. Certainly rooting for him, not only because obviously we're Steeler fans, but just because, regardless of what happens with his pro career, if it flames out or if it's great, leading Pitt to an ACC championship after all those years of Pitt falling short. I think you and I as Pitt fans will never forget that. So he'll be a legend at Pitt no matter what happens in the NFL.
Yep, and he's the first-round draft pick, one of the few quarterbacks been picked in the first round from Pitt. Overall, Pitt hasn't had that great of luck with sending quarterbacks to the pros. Part of that's their own problem. Like, they didn't let Johnny Unitas come in because he couldn't pass the test to get into school. So he went to Louisville. So Johnny Unitas really wanted to go to Pitt. I've read that before. So we kind of lost out on him. And I don't know. It's not like Penn State is putting a ton of guys in the pros at quarterback either. So,
yeah, Pitt's tradition is, I would say, is more tied to running backs than to quarterbacks in terms of
even defensive players. Like, they've had a lot of great defensive players go. And, not just Aaron Donald. They've had Jabal Sheard is really good, and Darrelle Revis, and
Chris Tolman, Ricky Jackson. They've had a lot of great defensive players too. So. But you're right. Other than Marino and
Pickett,
and Pickett is to be determined. But both of those guys being first round picks. Other than that, you're right. Nobody else really that was on the radar in terms of NFL.
Yeah, I wonder how that would compare with other schools. I don't know that there's a school that's put just a ton of quarterbacks in the NFL. So,
well, if you remember the episode we did on the 96 Steelers quarterback controversy, and we were talking about Mike Tomczak. Remember, we went through
the Ohio State quarterbacks,
Yeah, literally, and we made the argument at the time that Mike Tomczak was probably the greatest quarterback to ever come out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
If you look at the list of all the other guys. So
it's not just like Pitt. Yeah, Pitt's kind of alone in that
Yeah, that would be an interesting analysis of. Yeah, I mean, there's point being there's really big time college football programs like Ohio State that have had way more success than Pitt that still haven't sent a whole lot of quarterbacks to the NFL. But yeah, it was fun going through that list though, and remembering some of those guys and what they did do at Pitt, and then some of that stuff I didn't really remember all the stuff they did in the NFL. So
Well, I had fun walking down memory lane today, Tim. I hope everybody listening enjoyed it. Give us a rating on whatever podcast service you're listening to. Check us out on Twitter. Check out our website. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.